there is a human aspect to it, of course, but it's absolutely right. I mean, the unification point is how many MPs nominated Andy, including MPs that went on and didn't get jobs or were asked to leave the government. And that's that is, I'm afraid, part of the picture that we're part of. And you know, it is difficult for sure for those that have had to leave it. But I don't believe it's created a new faction, as I've heard a few times in the media.
But speaking of this new administration, it was a real whirlwind for the new Prime Minister Andy Burnham. He started that reshuffle on Monday afternoon, and of course there was that sort of bombshell news that everyone was thinking it was going to be either Shabana Mahmood or Ed Miliband, and then out of nowhere the news came that it was actually going to be John Healey. I was in the House of Lords, and you could just hear jaws hitting the floor. There's sometimes moments in politics which take everybody by surprise, and that was one of those moments. So there was lots of shuffling around, lots of people were out and lots of people were in, and he definitely has a new team in place. Well, let's speak to a member of that new team, James Frith. James is a Labour MP for Bury North. He was also appointed as the new Minister for Health at the Department for Health and Social Care, and that appointment came just yesterday, and I'm delighted he joins us now. James, welcome to the show.
Good to be with you, Ayesha.
So how did you get the news? Did you get a call directly from the Prime Minister?
I got a call from the Chief Whip, day 3, I think, of the reshuffle, and it meant that by which point the Prime Minister was rightly out and about doing the business that we need him to get up to and on with. And so I got a call from the Chief Whip towards the end of the day confirming my appointment to the Department for Health and Social Care, which I was delighted about. I've done a lot as a constituency MP and at Westminster on health and health policy. And of course, it's a hugely resonant issue. Everybody cares about it. It's a really, really important job. And I'm delighted to be trying to get to grips with it now.
And look, before, in your last ministerial role, you had been the Minister for Digital Government, and presumably you were also working on the digital ID plan. Now, one of the first things that Andy Burnham announced was that he was going to scrap that plan, and some of that money was going to be used for other things. But then, of course, Darren Jones then tweeted saying, well, actually, we hadn't fully funded that measure. So what's gone on there, James?
The digital ID was really only the means by which you reform public services to make them digital and joined up. The work that had gone on to that point was around a building of infrastructure that's given us one login, and some of the changes that we've seen with HMRC particularly, and the passport service and the e-visas. And these are some successes around digital government in recent months and years.
So why was it uncosted?
Well, it wasn't uncosted in reference to Darren's comments. That was about the next spending review period and the negotiation, and indeed the assessment of the cost, the need for that budget was still to be determined. And in fact, the consultation process had really only just concluded days before Andy Burnham became Prime Minister. So actually the blueprint, the design for the final build was not even half complete in terms of an assessment of that future spend. There had been an OBR assessment, which is what the government used to make a reassessment of that spend and allocate resources on cost of living. I think, to be honest, Andy's right to outline in-year savings to be able to afford some of the cost of living measures that he came in so quickly, hitting the ground running to outline, and I support that.
Sure, but I suppose what people are wanting to know is that, are all of these new announcements costed? Because I think because that first announcement came out saying we're doing this and we're going to pay for it by scrapping digital ID, and then Darren Jones came out and said, well, actually, this still is unfunded because we hadn't allocated money. You can understand, James, why people are understandably asking questions at whether all of these things are funded. Are you confident that all of these measures that have been announced to ease the cost of living and help pubs and things like that, are they fully costed?
Absolutely. I mean, some are immediate and some come in due course. But it's absolutely right. And I think the peace of mind that I would point to is this time last week, that announcement of digital ID being scrapped, and that money being, or that resource being reallocated, which includes people, of course, is not just the products themselves, being reallocated to some of the digital infrastructure we need around digital driver's license, the plans that we have within the NHS that I'm now responsible for about a single patient record. There is a whole effort of digital transformation underway. I do think there's an argument for personalised, joined-up services, but there's more than one way of doing that.
And how did you feel about Darren Jones tweeting that? Because it was quite an angry message.
I don't know if you can read into a tweet. I saw it, read it. I thought that's.
Well, do you think
fair.
Was it helpful or not? Do you think?
I don't know if it was helpful or not. I don't think it was designed to be anything other than contributing to the debate. You'd have to ask Darren what his motivation was for
James,
it.
Look, we're in the new world of politics, James. You can say what you think a bit more. Come on, you're a clever guy. You're a smart guy. What did you think when you read that? Because everyone else read that and there was like, oh, a bit of a stushy here.
Yeah. No, not at all. I mean, Darren tells it how it is, and so does Andy. And you're absolutely right. We are in new politics. Look, there's obviously a conversation about policy direction, but Andy's the Prime Minister. It's absolutely right that he outlines his priorities, and I think he gets that cost of living is everybody's priority. He took a decision to reallocate resources in the first week. And I think after the first week, he deserves credit for some clear thinking, and also knowing that things that he commits to have to be funded.
And obviously the way the Darren Jones intervention was read, and many people have been quite cross with it. Harriet Harman went on the record and said she thought it was deeply unhelpful. She said, look, she had herself been sacked early on in Tony Blair's government. You have to have a respectful period of silence. So some people were very cross with Darren Jones. I mean, Andy Burnham wants to get rid of factionalism. Is there a danger now, though, and many people are reporting on this, that there's a new sort of old Keir Starmer faction that will potentially be unhelpful to Andy Burnham? How worried do you think you are and others about that? You know, because Andy Burnham was wanting to bring the party together, but when you sack loads of people, there is often a bit of residual resentment, isn't there?
Well, feelings are going to be affected, of course, and it would be. You talk about being candid, Ayesha. You know, there is a significant amount of anxiety during a reshuffle. There's not much political capital to be earned in asking for politicians to be thought of sympathetically. But, you know, these are people's political ambitions. They are people's political hopes. Very often they are policies that they believe in deeply that may be disrupted or changed, as we've just spoken about. There is a human aspect to it, of course, but it's absolutely right. I mean, the unification point is how many MPs nominated Andy, including MPs that went on and didn't get jobs or were asked to leave the government. And that's that is, I'm afraid, part of the picture that we're part of. And you know, it is difficult for sure for those that have had to leave it. But I don't believe it's created a new faction, as I've heard a few times in the media.
So look, you're a new minister at the Department of Health. You know, you've only been in the job really. This is your first full day. But what do you think are you know the biggest prizes for the department? Is it, you know, finally getting social care sorted out in this country? Is it still going to be the focus on driving down waiting lists for you? What are the big sort of priorities you want to see driven through?
Well, certainly there's a need to switch from prevention and community care. You're absolutely right about social care, and Andy has always had a clarity of thought, clarity of purpose on that. There's the need to, I think, show significant move towards social care the change in social care before the next election, because people have a faith in politics deficit, and simply making announcements, and Andy knows this, won't cut the mustard. And that has been very clear from the energy and the instruction that we're getting. This is only, as you say, day 1.5 into the role, but also the adoption of technology. So single patient record, joined up services, the development of the NHS app, a movement to AI, tracking of our records, that ability to access our health care through NHS website, and the app, of course, which is so routinely used now and saves us a huge amount of administrative burden and time in the system. And then, of course, the investment in bigger technology that helps us prevent and diagnose earlier. So it's a really exciting brief. It's work I've done a lot on, particularly around hospice and social care before now. And I await full clarification of what my brief will be. But it's a brilliant department. We had our first team meeting yesterday, and Yvette's very clear-sighted about what she wants to achieve on behalf of the Prime Minister.
And just final question to you before I let you go, James, is we spoke to the solicitors representing the families of the victims of the Southport killer, Axel Rudakabana. It's been reported that he has been moved from Belmarsh to a psychiatric hospital. The solicitor was saying that the families are absolutely distraught about this. They don't feel that they've had any consultation on this. They feel that he is sort of manipulating the system. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, look, these are operational decisions, but of course it is absolutely appalling. Those attacks and the appalling crime that he committed is atrocious and remains atrocious and remains hugely damaging to those families, for whom I extend every sympathy as a dad and as a parent myself. As to the incarceration or continued incarceration of this appalling criminal murderer, these are decisions that have to be taken on an operational level. I think your programme has covered some of the deeply systemic problems that our prison capacity system has. But of course, a psychiatric hospital is an incarceration. It is still a prison. But I'm not across the detail. It's not a judgment I've been involved with. But my feelings and sympathies, deeply sympathy to the families and the victims' families, particularly, as well as the wider community of Southport.
OK, well, James, thanks very much for your time. That's James Frith, who's the Labour MP for Bury North, and he's the new Minister for Health at the Department of Health and Social Care.